All right. Well, I woke up this morning, and what I normally do when I wake up in the morning is I check my Google News app on my phone. And the way it's set up is I get the latest and top boxing stories in that app because that's one of my interests that I put in there. So I get the top boxing stories every day. One of those stories that I stumbled across was Eddie Hearn trashes the Deontay Wilder-Tyson Fury pay-per-view numbers. And I know a lot of people are interested in the behind the scenes business aspect of boxing, and I know we criticize fans for caring too much about the business side as opposed to the actual fighters, their styles, their skills themselves. Hey, what's up, Georgie? And I fall into that trap too. Talking about pay-per-view buys, talking about numbers, talking about ticket prices, talking about ticket sales. I do talk about that stuff as well. I don't think that is the focal point of the sport. Obviously, it is important because boxing is a business, and these fighters, um, in order to earn themselves a good living and be able to continue to fight, they need to make money and put food on the table for their families and themselves. And is it our job to really count what they have? Is it our job to be their financial advisors, their managers? No. But if you're going to cover the sport, it's still part of the sport. And it's part of the news that's put out there. And the reason why I care about pay-per-view buys is because I want to see fighters do well. I want to see the sport do well, because if the fighters do well, obviously the sport's doing well. I want to see the sport become popular. I want to see the sport be a crossover sport. So I do care about a fight like this. I do care about how many people watched it. I do care about how many people are interested in it, because it only makes boxing bigger and better. So with that being said, we all know about the rumors about how this fight between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury on Showtime pay-per-view, they're saying that the estimates are somewhere above 325,000 pay-per-view buys, and they could be even higher than that. They could be, in the 350, 360,000 range. We don't know yet. They have not been made official. They're still counting them, but they know at the very least it did 325,000 pay-per-view buys. So let's say, for all intents and purposes, maybe it does 350,000 pay-per-view buys. So as I said, checking the boxing news today, first story that I stumbled across was Eddie Hearn, as I said, trashes the Wilder Fury pay-per-view numbers, saying that they're terrible. Dillian White, Derek Chisero did 300,000. But again, we go over this several times with the UK fans. With Eddie Hearn, we debunk this whole argument about, just because a fight sells more or it has more people watching it in the UK, that does not always mean that it generates more money for the fighters. So we all know that the pay-per-view costs and the ticket costs for an event in the United States are, 3 to 4 times more than they are in the UK. So fighters do not have to fight in 90,000 seat arenas. They don't always have to sell 1 million pay-per-view buys for the event to be successful. Okay? And not only that, if you look at most fighters' first pay-per-view, it's generally around the ballpark of this if it's successful, like the stars. Like Canelo's a pay-per-view star, Floyd Mayweather's a pay-per-view star. Floyd Mayweather's first pay-per-view with Arturo Gatti, as I said before, did 340,000 pay-per-view buys. And I also mentioned there was less piracy back then. There was less illegal streams back then. There was less ways to access the fight and watch the fight illegally, as opposed to how it is today. And Canelo Alvarez, the first pay-per-view that he headlined, I emphasize and stress the word headlined, with Alfredo Angulo, that did 350,000 pay-per-view buys. So Eddie Hearn wants to compare this pay-per-view to Canelo Alvarez's pay-per-view with Golovkin recently that did 1.1 million pay-per-view buys. Yes, but look how many times Canelo Alvarez was on pay-per-view before, and look at his first pay-per-view fight headlining, and look at Floyd Mayweather's first pay-per-view. So this fight is very respectable for, Deontay Wilder's first pay-per-view. Look at Andre Ward's first pay-per-view, how that did. This did substantially more than that. Andre Ward's first pay-per-view, I think, did like 100,000 or 150,000 pay-per-view buys. Look at Triple G's first pay-per-view, like 90,000 pay-per-view buys. Terrence Crawford's first pay-per-view, I think it did, I don't know, in the 70s. So you should be comparing this fight to those fights because it's more of an accurate comparison. Okay, you should also compare this fight to Floyd Mayweather and Canelo Alvarez's first pay-per-view and Canelo Alvarez's first pay-per-view headline, because that's more of an accurate barometer, in my opinion. And you say Chisora and White did 300,000 pay-per-view buys, but how much did those guys make? How much back-end money did they get? How much revenue did the fight itself generate? Because this fight is going to generate well over 25 million. Well over 25 million, possibly 30. Because you have to also take into account that there's UK pay-per-view as well as United States pay-per-view. Whereas with Chisora and White, there was only one revenue stream for that. That was the UK pay-per-view. So I don't know for sure if Deontay Wilder is going to get a portion of that UK pay-per-view. From what I understand, they said they split everything 50-50. So I'm guessing, and I'm pretty confident that he is. So he's getting a portion of the back end on 2 pay-per-views instead of 1. Okay, so I can pretty much guarantee that Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury are making significantly more than White Chisora did in their first fight. So why even make that comparison? You want to talk about numbers, but at the end of the day, if you're a promoter, what you're most concerned about is maximizing your revenue. Now, is it great to say, yeah, I can fill out a 90,000 seat stadium in terms of marketing? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, we've gone over this several times, and for some reason, people just don't get it. It's about the revenue. Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. Look at the amount of revenue they generate, and look what the gate. They had the 3rd highest gate of all time in their first fight together, fighting in front of what, 17 and a half thousand people, and they were able to generate the 3rd highest gate. Not one of Anthony Joshua's fights is even in the top 20, I don't think, if you really go down the list of highest grossing fights of all time. I don't even think it breaks the top 20. And that's not to disparage Anthony Joshua, but again, we've said this time and time again, the money is in the United States. It's just basic economics. And you cannot compare the economy of a country that has 350 million people. You can't compare that to a country that has 65 million people. We have the largest economy in the world. Okay? That's not to put down any other country, but it's just facts. It's a factual statement. We have the largest economy in the world, the most productive economy in the world. And all of the biggest fights in the world of all time have been in the United States. And that's not going to change. That's not going to change. And that's no disrespect to Anthony Joshua. But that's why all of these fighters from other countries come here to fight. That's why we have Gennady Golovkin, Manny Pacquiao. We had Julio Cesar Chavez, okay? And even the Klitschko's fought here before HBO stopped televising their fights. And Tyson Fury just fought on American soil because he knew that was the best way to maximize the revenue of his fight. So at the end of the day, Eddie Hearn will do anything he can to subtract from others to add to himself and Anthony Joshua. And he's been doing this time and time again, but the formula just doesn't work. The method just doesn't work anymore. So if this fight does 350,000 pay-per-view buys, the rematch should at least do at the very bottom end 500,000 pay-per-view buys, maybe 600. Okay, if it's able to do that, and these guys are continuing to get more popular, and they're continuing to enhance their profile, and now no one's really talking about Anthony Joshua anymore. Eddie Hearn is going to have to make a decision. Is he going to continue to create friction between him and Wilder and him and Fury, or is he going to try to build a bridge in order to do what's best for his fighter and make the two biggest fights out there for his fighter, which would be Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury? Because the formula he's using right now, it's not working. There's much more of a buzz for Wilder Fury than there was for Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Povetkin. No one really cared about that fight. And this April 13th fight, if it's going to be Anthony Joshua versus the winner of Derek Chisora versus Dillian White, which it probably is going to be, knowing that no way in hell is that going to garner more attention than a Fury Wilder rematch. So Deontay Wilder will continue to enhance his profile. He's all over American television right now in terms of these sports shows, all the appearances he's made, all the radio shows he's been on, and Tyson Fury's done his share of press as well. So the rematch is going to be bigger. And while Anthony Joshua, taking nothing away from him, he's a huge star. He's a huge star. But it seems as though now he's kind of bottomed out. He's kind of bottomed out a little bit. He's reached his peak. And the only way he can get to that level above where he's at now is to fight a Wilder or a Fury. So I think Eddie Hearn once again misses the plot, letting his ego get the better of him. And instead of tearing the other side down, it would be in your best interest to build the other side up, talk good about the other side, because that only enhances how great a fight with Joshua and Wilder is going to be, how great a fight with Joshua and Fury is going to be. You saw when Fury and Wilder, the two sides got together and they made the fight, they were building each other up because they wanted to make the fight big. So if you want to make the fight big, history has shown us that you don't tear down the other side. Like when Floyd Mayweather, no one has learned from the mistakes of Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Floyd Mayweather and his team and Manny Pacquiao and his team, they were going back and forth. They were trying to negotiate the fight in the press. They were sitting there every day. You got a sound bite or a headline from both camps, and all it did was create more friction and more of a roadblock to make the fight. And Eddie Hearn, you're not learning from your mistakes from the past when you initially sat down and tried to make this fight with Wilder, okay? And you're not learning from the past, revisionist history with Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather. So I'm a huge boxing fan. I've been watching the sport since I was 11 years old, and I'm now 49. So I got a history with this sport, and I've seen these tactics time and time again. And all they do is create roadblocks and delay mega fights from happening. So Eddie Hearn, learn from your mistakes when you first tried to make this fight, and you tried to negotiate this fight in the press, and you were in front of a camera every 5 minutes, and people were hanging on every word you were saying, and they were getting sound bites from you, and you regret saying some of those things now. You regret saying some of those things now. So what do? Change it up. Don't continue to say those ridiculous things. Don't continue to put a damper on Wilder and Fury. Build them up. Say, oh yeah, you don't have to say it was an all-time great fight, but it was a very good fight. 300,000 or 350,000 pay-per-view buys. It's not what Anthony Joshua is doing, but again, it's showing Wilder's growth, and it's a pretty good damn showing for first pay-per-view. Joshua's first pay-per-view ever did, I think it was with Dillian White. I think it did 420,000 pay-per-view buys, and that's very impressive too. But Joshua is just an anomaly, man. Certain fighters are just anomalies. Like he's just right place, right time, right look, right everything. And credit to him for that. He's earned it, and you've done a great job with him up to this point. But now you've hit a snag. And in order to go above that snag, you need to change up, your mentality, because it's not working. I'm not here to sit there and bash you, call you names, say bad things about you. I don't know you as a person. I don't know you as a human being. So I'm not going to sit there and try and tear you down personally. But at the end of the day, this is not working. You're making the situation work. You have a fiduciary responsibility to do what's best for your fighter. You're not doing it. You're not doing it with these tactics. You need to change these tactics. Very important that you change these tactics, or Anthony Joshua is going to be on the outside looking in. He's going to be left out in the cold, and you're only going to hamper his career moving forward. That's all I got for now. Beeb is out. Talk to y'all soon. Peace. As always, have a great day.